What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark from MacTheMovieGuy.com, and I'm a blind film critic. And I was asked to help cover an independent film, which I like doing. I like bringing attention to films that don't have any attention to them. And to be fair, this film did not come with an audio description track as an option, but I also didn't ask for it because the request for consideration immediately came with a link. So I didn't need to. I didn't need to turn around and ask for it and say, a lot of times we get requests like, would you like to? And then the response is, yes, I'd like to screener for review purposes. So for this film, it was just there, but that meant largely that the audio description didn't exist. I don't think the audio description does exist for this. When they're talking about being a low budget horror movie, I think probably the budget's on screen, especially considering they're doing practical effects for the creature. From everything that I could possibly tell, the whole reason for having sort of a creature feature factory is in order to be able to do practical elements. There's an actor who's credited as being the creature performer. There's a talent that's attached to the film that they're using to help promote, who has worked with Roger Corman and worked on films like Alien. So uh, yeah, I think they were working with practical effects here. They're just doing it in low budget fashion. So let's talk about Wellwood. This is a new horror movie that is available on video on demand. Probably Tubi at some point. I've been seeing Screambox has been trying to like make a move on Shudder and get more and more originals. So maybe I don't know, it could go to Screambox, it could go to Shudder. I think one of the horror-based services would be insane to not pick this up. Um, it did originally have another title, and now it is Wellwood. So its original title was honestly more hokey. I already forgot it, but I looked at when I was doing just a tiny bit of research on this movie. I found out that there was a different title for this film. So I think Wellwood's a better title, even though it says nothing and has nothing to say. So, um, honestly, now it is like Midsummer. It's just if you make a film that's good enough, it doesn't really matter. But your film has to sort of stand out, so that way, when people are talking about your film later on, they're like, "Oh my God, did you see Wellwood? Oh, it was amazing!" And then people will ask, "What is Wellwood?" But like the people who know that whether or not Wellwood is good. So one of the most interesting things about this is it stars Keisha Castle Hughes. They got an Oscar nominee here. I don't know if that says more about her career or about the film. I don't know how she got into the project, but she stars in this. So there's an Academy Award nominee in the lead role here, which I did not expect for a film that claims it's low budget horror. But then again, I also was like, I don't know the last time I saw Keisha Castle Hughes. God, I know how to say her name. She was nominated for Best Actress for Will Writer years ago. So, Hollywood tried to find a place for her. I kind of like the fact that Catalina Sandino Moreno, who was nominated around the same time, a few years later, from Maria Full of Grace, is now on From. So like we found things for her to do that are sort of like at her level of acting. I don't know if this is on Keisha's level of acting, but it's really hard to pick up on anybody's level of acting because they're trying to do a thing for this movie. Like it's got its own vibes. Yeah, it doesn't have audio description. It's a creature film, and I know that they want me to talk about the visual effects and the creature effects and the violence or the gore. Crickets. Why did I review this? Why did I bother? A, so that there's a review of this that exists, but B, so there's an awareness that blind people do like audio description for horror films and even for independent horror films. There's actually, I'm a member of two communities on audio description on Facebook. One of them is a pretty large community that's just sort of for a blanketing audio description community for anything. Even for like, there are people in there that talk about like for live theater, for sporting events. It's just like an audio description community. And the one splinter group that exists is audio description for horror movies, because there are enough people who love film and who love horror movies that this is the logical connection for them. But it's also probably the genre that requires audio description the most. Horror and sci-fi are probably the two that require audio description the most, either because of the gore, the creature feature stuff, the technology that's often used in these projects, creating mood jump scares, all sorts of things that happen in various horror movies or monster movies or films set in space where no one can hear you scream. Um, yeah, so there is a demand for it. Does it mean that there's a demand for Wellwood? I don't know. But you don't know until you try. And for films like Wellwood that go around to film festivals, I also know blind people that attend film festivals, and typically they only go see the ones that have audio description because that's where they'd rather spend their money. You have a limited amount of time at a film festival, so unless there's something that you just specifically really are dying to see, regardless, without just because, I don't know, it lives in your bones, chances are you're going to end up seeing the films with audio description. So something like Wellwood could absolutely fall shy. There are some horror channels out there, and I hope they cover this because I hope that they are able to talk about things like the design of the character. I saw this has like a 4 point something on IMDb, and I felt that was kind of low. The production value here is not terrible. The only time that I thought the production value, from what I could tell audio wise, that suffered was your alien scream is not great. I'm gonna say your alien scream kind of reminded me of, there's like a crappy alien scream that I've heard, or like a monster scream, and it's been in a lot of like low budget horror movies like Children of the Corn, the one that was on Shudder, or what are some other movies that I've heard that feel like that when the monster screams, it's like, what is that? I don't know. It doesn't sound good. Uh, but everything else sounds great. Like the recording level of the dialogue and everything. There's some score here. It's not just dead air. A lot of independent films sometimes have this weird sort of dead echo feel to them. Like, and then they try to throw a score on top of it, but it's like a score that means nothing and has nothing to say. And it's just like one movie just had essentially what sounded like somebody was doing a tremolo on like a violin or a cello the whole time, just holding out like one note. It's like, that's not a score. That's like it's like an effect on MIDI. You know? But I mean, it fills dead air, I guess. So it makes it gives you the guise of having a score, even though your score doesn't change or go anywhere. It's just, the film is never silent. Not that a film can't be silent. Horror films actually relish in silence when they're going for a jump scare. So, I think the film would have benefited from more at the beginning. We're kind of introduced to people and you have to pick up on things right away, especially coming from my perspective without audio description and trying to grasp at straws. I felt like the whole plot with our two main characters, Nick and whoever Keisha Castle Hughes is playing, I don't know, Whale Rider. The two characters are off to this Airbnb for this vacation, and then you find out also about the fact that she's dying, but we don't know much about her history. We don't know much about them as a pair, as a couple. I think maybe seeing the struggle, seeing something about her disease, seeing the prognosis, seeing him maybe plan this trip. I think there's some lead-in stuff there. And I know that, like, budgetarily, you're trying to just shoot at this cabin in the woods. Probably, basically, is what this is. It all feels like it takes place in one location. So it becomes a little bit of a constraint on the budget. But I think for a film that is relying a lot on its script to get it from point A to point B, because while you do have a creature feature studio attached to you to do the makeup and I don't know what else, prosthetic work or whatever, that whole thing, um, you do actually still need a story to drive it. And I couldn't connect to anybody in this film because it's just everything was sort of very matter of fact. It's very just like, we're here, we're doing this thing, this is what's happening. So uh, there are also these police officers who are there to provide a body count. I actually kind of like the police officers, especially the guy. I thought he was fun. I kind of wanted them to do a little bit more, but it's like typical horror movie stuff where people just make bad life choices, and you're like, well, we know where this is headed, you know? I mean, there's always those characters in horror movies. You can like them or not like them, but immediately they're like, oh, there was a sound outside. What was it? I don't know. I'm going to go look at it. uh, I know, to be fair, sometimes people don't know they're in a horror movie, and it's like that's maybe how you would react in real life, and then you wouldn't, because you'd be ready to encounter, I don't know, like a cat or a raccoon, and then all of a sudden, not. So, uh, but it just, yeah, it's kind of deflating when it happens to people who seem generally friendly and not those like poorly written, overly hokey bad characters, bad guy characters who are like, I'm here to do bad things, I'm gonna ruin your day. Like those guys. It's always fun when those guys die, but when it's the cheerful guy who's like, hey, how's it going? What's that? Hey. It's like, I'm being nice, I'm being friendly. Those people just, it's always disappointing. I guess it's a spoiler. I don't know. It's a creature movie with very few people in the cast. It, I don't know if it would be able to call itself a horror movie if someone wasn't killed by the creature. So at some point, it's just like pointing and thinking and being like, well, who? Um, so they're out of this cabin Airbnb thing, and there's an alien that crashes behind them, and the husband goes out and kidnaps it. Nick, I don't know, are they married? And then keeps it, and his idea is to use the alien somehow to cure. He sees that the alien can replicate and heal itself, so he's like, well, if I do science, I'll be able to use it to be able uh, to heal Keisha Cashel Hughes, who can go on to do great things in the end. So it's definitely interesting from that perspective, because basically he's just and I did get a little bit of context because one other person has seen Wellwood from apparently. So apparently the alien is just tied to a chair, which is inherently hilarious, and I kind of love. So I like a lot of the choices that are being made here. I don't know if this is the best movie ever, but I don't know that I need it to be. I don't know that I need Wellwood to be. It was never going to be the kind of movie where you're like, oh my God, have you seen Wellwood? Best movie of the year. It just has to be good enough that it sparks conversation and causes people to want to see it again. And I've seen a couple of these movies that have been thrown my way where they're kind of campy, they're a little schlocky, but they're kind of fun. And I'm kind of glad I got to see them. They never have audio descriptions, so I can't ever fully recommend them. But I'm kind of like, I wish them the best moving forward. The Invisible Raptor was one last year that stood out to me as being like, well, that could be fun. Film knows what it is. It knows it's not taking itself too seriously. Earlier this year I had Clone Cops, which again, I'm not going to say it's like an epic film of grand proportions, but it was fun. It was fun from being able to sit through something without audio description. I thought, there's a little bit of fun there. And I think there's a little bit of fun in Wellwood. I would have expanded more on the characters. There aren't that many people here. And when you don't know that much about them, you can't really connect to any of them. And it's not like this film is so dominated by alien horror that's the point of the movie, because sometimes it doesn't matter who the characters are because they're all being sent in to die. We've seen those films too, where it's like 12 people and none of them are going to make it out, or maybe one will be lucky enough to make it out, but we don't know anything about them, because basically we know that this film is set up for us to be able to talk about the kill sequences, right? How that person died, how that person died, how that person died, how that person died. Sort of like the new Final Destination movie that comes out soon is going to be, nobody's going to be talking about like, well, the acting was really good. I actually really liked what they did with those characters. No. They want to know, how did the people die? Was it brutal? Was it gory? Was it over the top? That movie's already been trying to advertise itself as being the most over the top gory of the Final Destination films, which is already saying a lot, because that film, compared to where the first film was, has already been pushing the limit, kind of with each iteration, you know. So I have no idea how they feel like they're going to step themselves up in terms of gore, but I'm sure horror fans will be super excited. The funny thing about me is I wouldn't classify myself as uniquely as a horror fan. Uh, I've kind of mentioned before, one of the things about my blindness, one of the sort of interesting side effects of losing my vision is that I didn't used to watch a lot of horror movies. I was kind of a wimp. I liked my slasher films, my teen slasher movies. Like, I've seen like all those. But when it came to things that I thought were either going to be just gore for the sake of gore, and also just an unnecessary amount, I never would have seen Smile or Smile 2 ever. Like, Sighted Me, not in a million years. No. I didn't see The Conjuring until I lost my vision. So, and I love The Conjuring now. Like, it's funny, everything has a different context now. And I'm actually able to appreciate the story and the characters and the acting and everything, because I'm not like waiting for a cheap jump scare out of nowhere. And there's always that fear that it's going to be cheap and it's not going to be good. And even great directors throw in cheap jump scares every once in a while, where it's like, it's just a barking dog. You know what I'm saying? It's nothing. It's a nothing thing. And you're like, I hate you. So, uh, yeah. So Wellwood, I wish it well. I do. I thought the acting was, considering that these characters are given very limited parameters and not a whole lot of backstory. I thought the actors did a nice job compared to what I see typically of films of this budget and this capability. And the fact that only one of these people is an Oscar nominee and everybody else is not. They had to match her level, which is kind of a daunting task, because, you know, like, they're not, it's not like Keisha Castle Hughes is sharing the screen with other people that you would immediately recognize based on name recognition alone. No. And, you know, she's always, for the rest of her life, no matter what she does, she's walking in the room an Oscar nominee. So I was actually really impressed with the level of the actors. I was actually kind of connected to characters without audio description in a way that I was like, I don't want to see bad things happen to these people, because the film didn't pull out the trope of introducing to you characters in which you inherently hate from the beginning, and therefore spending the whole movie waiting for that character to get killed off. You know, that obnoxious character. That doesn't really happen here. These are just kind of regular people, and things just kind of go awry. I have no idea how gory or violent it is, but I'm gonna guess not much, because there isn't much opportunity for it to be. But the actual creature itself, I think, is supposed to be the draw. The actual, you know, how's the suit? Does it look good? That kind of thing. How realistic does that look? And on a budget, what were they able to do with it? So I don't have a grade for Wellwood. Sorry, sports fans. It doesn't have audio description. It doesn't meet my accessibility needs individually. But I'm not going to say it's great. I kind of ballparked Clone Cops as being like a C plus B minus, and I kind of enjoyed that. I think Wellwood would probably be like a C plus C for me. I still, maybe a C minus. It could possibly go negative for me. Just kind of depends. I'm sort of in this very mid range for Wellwood. Um, Simply because, like, again, I know you're limited, but there's something to be said for actually knowing who these people are as characters instead of us just like finding out things about them that's thrown randomly into the plot. I think that there's a better way to build the story organically, and to tell us more about, her and her condition, why she matters, show us maybe more of the relationship between these two and why he cares about keeping her alive. They just kind of show up. They're just like, we're here. Oh, by the way, this is part of the film. So, I don't know. Pull at that emotional string. I think a lot of the great horror movies right now are benefiting from, epic storytelling on top of uh, being able to lean heavy into the genre. Like The Substance is both. There's a great story that's being told about the aging process and the way that we look at celebrities of a certain age, while also being incredibly graphic. So you can do both. Filmmakers are doing it all the time. Ari Aster's doing it all the time. So we've opened up a new door for people to walk through. And I think people are expecting it more and more for people to try to walk through it at least a little bit. That now that they can have a little bit of story along with their gore, along with their horror, along with their creatures and aliens, they kind of want that a little bit, I think. I think it's a little bit more than what it used to be. This would have worked pre A24, but there really isn't a wide demand, I don't think. Maybe there is, but the fact that you know there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of pull or excitement for the next Keisha Castle Hughes movie. Maybe I don't know. Maybe there should be. So that's my amalgamation of thoughts for Wellwood. Anyway, I wish you the best. I do. I don't hate this movie. I don't think it's bad. I think the 4 point something, maybe it's a little low. I don't know. I don't have the context. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I'll see you guys on the other side.